Robert Lombardo, citizens' comments in Cross Street.
Good evening. I wanted to address the citizens' comments first.
That mic might not be on. Robert.
Hello.
There you go.
I want to address the citizens' comment. I want to note, it was brought up by Mr. Marone, that he didn't like wasting time on issues that aren't on the agenda. Well, I will remind the council that it was Mr. Marone and Mr. Patton who came in there with the new trick of sending an email in and putting something on the agenda that had absolutely nothing to do with anything that was on the agenda. It was a personal attack, basically on me. He was talking about Nazis. Remember that, Nazis and the party of hate, while this chamber was filled with people here on the airport issue. You came in, you took your half hour or whatever it was, and well, you both gave your speeches.
Flower.
All right, but you both gave your speeches and then you left. But everybody was here on the airport issue. So now, where we are talking about things that are on the agenda. So if you do want to put it to the end or you want to limit speech, that's fine. But just remember that when you were on this side of the podium, you like to have that opportunity. So I just think that what's good for the goose is good for the gander, or we could use the hypocrisy word. But please, I mean, we don't take up that much time. Mr. Massett started at 8:25. Nobody spoke before that. And I can tell you what people around the coffee tables and the bars talk about, and they say the town councilors do a little bit too much talking and not enough listening. And I've noticed that too. That's a constant criticism. They're not going to tell you that. And I serve a purpose. You might not like my criticism, but nobody else does it. It's not easy to get up here and criticize you. You should try it. And I get honked all the time by people in Westerly town employees. Somebody just this afternoon said, keep them honest. And I get that all the time. So you might not like what I have to say, but a lot of people do out there. And if you want to hear me, Wednesday afternoons, 3 to 5, WBLQ. Because we continue. Now, the other thing about the citizens' comments, I came last time and Mr. Carson interrupted me, said I wasn't on the agenda. But then Mr. Eugene Parisi came up here. And what was the agenda item he was speaking about? Basically trashing Robert Lombardo, and you didn't stop him. Didn't stop him once. He wasn't supposed to be on the agenda, and he was drunk. But as long as he's patting you on the back and telling you how great you are, you'll let him speak. So it's not really, you can say you want to limit speech to get your meeting over, but I say you don't like the message. That's what I get from it. And now you're starting these meetings earlier in the day to accommodate, I believe, those two gentlemen. When you first started talking about this, you used to be worried about the time you started. You wanted everybody to be able to participate in government. But that's been thrown out the window. And it's obvious to people out there that this town council is not what they said they were going to be. It is not open. It is not honest. And Mr. Gagne used to, when he was on this side of the podium, used to say sunlight is the best disinfectant. We have no sunlight anymore. The police union has been asking for an investigation on that for over a month, and you are bearing it. You are bearing it. There's no investigation. There's not been on the agenda. That's all they're asking because they know that your town managers lied. Okay? But anyway. Again, Mr. Parisi. I mean, there's an example of a guy that it's good to have the right person hate you. The reason Mr. Parisi's mad at me is because Susan Champignon, who was running for town council, said something quite nasty in Facebook, and I repeated it. I get blamed repeating what she said, and what she said was not condemned by Mr. Gagne, Mr. Silvestri, and Mr. Selico. He didn't condemn it. And Mr. Aiello, make no mistake, you were toast if they could have gotten rid of you the other day. They had already lined up Susan Champignon. They were getting rid of you. You were going to get no due process. You watch your back. And if you want to see the emails, come by my office and show them. They were ready to get rid of you. They were going to overturn the elected process and get Ms. Champignon on there. So watch your colleagues. Now, I just want, the other thing is what you've been saying, and Mr. Sposato said it mostly, that there was nothing wrong in the town hall. But I think Ed Sinclair straightened that out. You all tripped over him when he was leaving, what a great guy he was. But now, as Mr. Overson says, with all due respect, I've been in working for a, what did you say, a Fortune 500 company for 33 years, so I know a good manager. Really? I thought you were over there on High Street. Do you know that Walmart is a, Mr. Overton, Walmart is a Fortune 500 company? So anybody who sells a product at Walmart is in the same position you are? I think it was an absurd statement, and you insult people. You all insult people. And I don't like that you insult these people. They're not my friends particularly. They're not my family members, but they work for the town of Westerly, and you constantly insult them. They don't like change. Change is hard in a small town. Where isn't change hard, Mr. Overton? And how would you know what it's like anywhere else but a small town? It's not change that people don't like. They don't like Derek Kennedy. Nobody in town likes Derek Kennedy. Very few people. Nothing's going to change the morale in this town until he leaves. You think he's a genius. He's not, and you're going to find out. And also the question with Mr. Selico, if you want to listen, Mr. Selico had a run-in with Sean Lacey, and I'm going to be pursuing that with the old, when he was a member of the police union. He had a run-in. Mr. Selico was kicked out of the police union rep because he was pursuing his own personal interests, according to them, and he was pursuing his own vendettas. And one of them was against the chief of police because everybody said, and this is in the articles, he wanted to be the chief of police. And a lot of people believe that he was behind Mr. Sean Lacey not getting the job because Sean Lacey became the police union. We'll be discussing that. The newspaper articles from 1990 do not portray you in a very favorable light, Mr. Selico. And there's a reason why you're the lowest vote getter both times. You are not a well-liked man, but you sit there at the meatball and martinis with Mr. Overton making those outrageous statements. They're insulting to people. But you don't like when I come up here and insult you. But you can insult. You know what they call those people? They suffer from narcissistic personality disorder. You can dish it out, but you can't take it. Both you and Mr. Overton. That's why you're the lowest vote getters. You're not well liked. You're mean, and you intentionally hurt people. Nothing wrong with the workers in town of Westerly. We don't have any now. We don't have a comprehensive plan. Where's our comprehensive plan? Where's the comprehensive plan? Where's our zoning person just left? Did you ever meet that zoning woman who was working here as a zoning official? Did you meet her? She had a law degree. She was smart. She was wonderful. She applied for the job. She didn't get it because he's not going to go under his thumb. You don't have a zoning official. You've known since October 1st you advertised for a zoning official. Where's your zoning official? She left. She was a wonderful woman. I talked to her several times. Bright woman. But he doesn't want her, just like Sean Lacey and anybody else who's smart is not going to last. You guys are doing it doesn't matter. It's not a question of if, it's a question of when. And I'm not going to let anybody forget that you were sitting up here when Derek Kennedy was destroying the fabric of the town of Westerly. Your names will be remembered as long as I have a breath and as long as I am in the town of Westerly. Because you are insulting people. I talk to the people in this town hall all the time. They're offended. We don't like change. You can handle change. What they can't handle is this double speak. Animal Farm is not a how-to manual. 1984 is not a how-to manual. It's satire. That's exactly how you're running this government. I'd love to read what Susan Champignon wrote. None of you bothered to condemn it. It was awful. She has no business being on the town council, and as long as I'm here, I will be reading it. But also, Parisi, I had to leave the other night. Parisi's drunk and he's spitting on me and he's back there. None of you condemned that either. This is the second time he's been thrown out of this chamber. He was arrested for disorderly conduct at the Knickerbocker, and he's bitter. And not one of you, and he's backing you up and telling you how great you are because we got a new police chief. It's an insult what you did to the police department and Sean Lacey. An absolute insult. Because everybody thinks you got rid of them because they're no good. They're doing a bad job. And don't say it isn't, because you only go outside, as I said before, police department, if there's something wrong. And I didn't know Sean Lacey, but what I think you did to him was despicable. And then kick him in the crotch with that thing you gave him, accommodation. He was the man that should have got the job. There's nothing wrong with him, and if there is, you should have told us. You give no due process. You convicted him without any due process. You did. Don't look at me like that, Mr. Gagne. You told him he's not good enough for the job. He was the man for the job. And I disagree, and we'll talk about this project with the Cross Street. You're all sitting here, Mr. Selico, you can't understand why we're having problems with the Cross Street project. You've been on the council 2 years. What have you been doing? Huh? What have you been doing for the 2 years on Cross Street? There is your director of public works. Right there. You don't have an engineer left in this town, do you? He drove out the engineer. He's your director of public works. Now you got a new director of public works. He's not an engineer. And then you're saying this is good government? And you wonder why these projects don't get done? Mr. Carson, there's no overruns when you have people watching the contractors do the work. You go out there every day, and you hold them to the contract. That's how it's done. So I disagree with you. You have fallen down on the job. You are Cross Street. You have been here 2 years. He's been here a year. No comprehensive plan. Cross Street's a mess. That's your director of public works. Good job, guys. Excellent. But don't blame anybody else for Cross Street. Cross Street's on you. And now you're talking about increasing the morale around here, and now you're going to vote on cameras. Do you know what the people in the town of Wesley that work here think, that their offices are bugged by Kennedy? They're afraid to talk in their offices. Now, I don't know if they're losing their mind. I don't know if it's true. But that's the perception. Can you imagine working in a place where you think it's bugged? So how are you going to change the morale? You're going to put security cameras in. And what's the other thing you're going to vote for tonight? It's cameras and time and attendance system. Yeah, make them feel really good. But that's what they feel like. And that's an insult when you tell them that they can't handle change. They don't want to be eavesdropped. They won't talk on their phones. They're afraid he's monitoring it. You can call them weird, but that's our employees, and I don't think it's funny, Mr. Selico. I don't think it's funny at all. Above and beyond, another violation. You have union bargaining agreements, and he's making. I know, Mr. Gagne, you don't want me to talk any longer.
No, you got 2 minutes.
Yeah, I'll be back as long as you don't have somebody threatening to throw me out or threatening violence against me. But anyway, that program, you can't give cash bonuses to union people. How many grievances have been filed against this guy by the union? How many? I know of 3. He doesn't know the law. He was making $80,000 his last job? Nobody hired him. Nobody in the world hired him. But you did. You think and now you gave him $140,000. I don't know what you guys are thinking, but for sitting there in martinis and meatballs, pounding your chest, saying that you've got some mandate by the 2 lowest vote getters, Derek Kennedy, when the people in this town, and you got to give him credit, voted against giving him power. That's why we have a new director of public works. They're smarter than you think. And you can sit up here and you can talk and tell me I'm crazy and try to cut me down. But the people out there are listening, and they know where the problem is. The problem's here, right here. It's always been here. It's never been the workers. Problem's here to here, and now it's over there as well. You got a problem, but I'll be back and I'll finish it up. But keep suppressing speech because it shows that you're insecure. I understand if you want to get to things first. I don't have a problem. But Mr. Simmons was here the other day. He talks first. These people talk first. That's fine. Let them talk first. But you guys don't hold your tongue either. And you could do well by doing a little bit more listening to the people at this podium. Not necessarily me, but people like Greg Masad. And when the airport issue, it showed you the type of quality of people we have in town. Maybe you should do some listening to them instead of doing all the talking you do. I'll be back. Thank you.
Thank you, Robert. Mr. Lombardo?
I noticed the time right before the end. This is when you want, this is the ghetto time when you want everybody to speak because there's no time to speak. It was less than an hour of citizens' comments tonight, and you still went to 11 o'clock. And Mr. Aiello, I know you speak more than anybody else, and you have the right to do that. But then when you tell other people up here to be brief and concise and to the point, it's a bit hypocritical. You speak a lot, and that's fine, but you're limiting speech here. That's what you do. You're limiting criticism. And there's a lot of people who would like to come in here and criticize you. You should see the emails and the texts I got from people. So I don't have much time. You've done a very good job of limiting people's speech. Nobody's left. Very good. And that's the problem with this town and the town council and each town council. Nobody likes criticism. Nobody takes it very well because you're insecure. Only insecure people can't handle criticism. Okay? I'm criticizing. I tell people tell me all the time, keep criticizing them. Don't run for the town council. Just keep criticizing them. But you don't like it. And so this is what you do. So you can limit speech, but I think it's going to cost you in the long run.
Mr. Lombardo, can I interrupt you 1 second? I just need a motion to extend the 11 o'clock curfew.
So moved. Second.
Motion made by Councilor Gagne, seconded by Councilor Selico. We extend the 11 o'clock curfew. Thank you.
Thank you. Now, Mr.
At this point, will we need the solicitor any longer, or could we let him go? He could go all the way to Providence. Do you have anything for the solicitor?
No, the executive session has been canceled, so. Oh, I'm sorry. I need a vote to extend the curfew. I'm sorry. All those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed? Ayes have it. I'm sorry. Continue, Mr. Lombardo.
Thank you. So, Mr. Overton, I'm not real impressed by your decision of what's a good manager who isn't. We don't have a town engineer. We don't have a minimum housing director. We don't have a task force person, director of the task force, substance abuse task force, and we don't have a zoning official. I call that bad management. Okay, and Mr. Gagne, you can say they're just rumors, but you also said it was a rumor when I got up here and said people were leaving the town because of the town manager, and you laughed at me. And Mr. Silvestris commented in the paper saying that he thinks it's because there's the high level of accountability now. Did you read Mr. Ed Sinclair's letter? Did you read it? You owe me an apology. I was right. He left for that reason, and he's claiming other people are. So you can sit here and say they're all rumors and smile. And, you know, I got three text messages about you, Mr. Selico, and your Cheshire smile. You look like a buffoon sitting there with your smile. But you can say that it's just rumors. You can hide the information. And I'll give you your emails when you give me the information that the police chief commission picked Sylvia over Lacey. How about that? You give me that information that he's hiding, and I'll give you the emails. Mr. Gagne says it's just there's no evidence of a lie. He said that the police chief committee picked Silva over Lacey. And the police union has asked you to prove it, and you can't. And it's because it's a lie. And that's a lie, Mr. Gagne. You can put your head in the sand, that's fine. But the police chief committee did not pick Silva over Lacey. There was a process he went through. Went through a process, and Lacey came out on top. But he overturned it. And then he lied about it. And you can say anything you want, but you've lost credibility because amongst the town, you might not know it, is you're always in his office. So you have no credibility on this. You and him are the same. You will go up and down together. And I don't think you're going to come out too well on this. You're worried about a void with a grant writer. You don't have a town engineer. You don't have a zoning person. And the reason we don't have these people is because you can't find anybody who will listen to him. It's painful to have to listen to this man. And he doesn't want anybody too smart. How about the zoning official who just left? She didn't get the job. Could you tell me what's wrong with her, Mr. Overton? What was wrong with her? Nothing. She was a bright woman. And you, Mr. Overton, have lost all credibility. You did a great job with the task force. Mrs. Baker was right when she said it was just switching family nepotism to institutional nepotism. You gave all that money to the Y. You've done nothing. At least with Mary Lou Sarah, we got some Narcan. And we got it before most police forces. But you took over and you've done nothing. And it's been almost a year without a director. You failed. And it was nepotism. And you gave it to your cronies. It was distasteful to watch Babcock and Sullivan. Sullivan came over here like vultures after that money. And you couldn't wait to give it to them. What do you have to show for it? You have nothing. You did a terrible job. And look here at the meeting, how many people you're looking for the substance abuse task force. You're missing about 5 people. You've done a great job. So I don't think anybody cares about whether you think he's a good manager or not. I've told you there's 4 or 5 people, critical people, that are missing. And you've known since October that you needed a zoning official. You've got a comprehensive plan that's out of date. That's your manager's problem. You got Cross Street, that's your manager's problem. And you keep telling everybody you got a great manager. Nobody believes you. Things are going to change in 2 years. You got to pass. 9 people ran. 9 people ran, and you, Mr. Overton, and you, Mr. Selico, squeezed in. That's it. You will not be here in 2 years. I guarantee that if I'm around. You will not. You've done a terrible job. And we'll see, Mr. Gagne, about the rumors. We'll see about the rumors. And you laugh because people in this town hall, a lot, think that their offices are bugged, their telephones are tapped. And you can laugh at them. But and I don't care if it's true or not, but they feel that, and that is bad. It's a police state in this place. And it's awful. And I talk to him, and you don't know a lot of employees that are happy with that man. He always says, I got to protect my employees. Nobody can stand him. We'll see. We'll see how it comes out. But this town's in trouble. No town engineer. And sit there, Mr. Selico. And we'll see what happens. But I'd like you to tell me where you get off thinking that the best policy is going outside and having a universal search for police. Which police administration book did you get that information from? Which one? Let me quote Police Administration by Gaines and Worrell. Okay? Jurisdiction hires an insider if the department has been successfully managed while police departments have experienced problems internally or within the community. Recruit outside police chief. You recruited an outside police chief, and all I'm saying is that's fine. Tell us what's the problem with the town, with our police department. What problems have they experienced? None. And that is disrespectful. He should have been picked unless there's a problem. Don't tell me a guy's better because he's got 8 years in another department. He doesn't know Bay Street from Bowling Lane. He's not the better chief. He might be a great chief in West Warwick, but the best person from Westerly comes from within. And I don't know where you've worked, but everywhere I've worked, they hire from the bottom up. I went to Halliburton, my first job. Before I could start as a civil engineer, I had to unload cement down in Duloc, Maryland. I did every dirty job at Halliburton before I became an engineer, and they go up. Every law firm I worked in, you start at the bottom. You start as a law clerk, associate, and then you go to a partner. But no, you don't do it that way here. It has nothing to do with the qualifications of Lacey. Because he couldn't get along with them. And he couldn't get along with them because they're not a yes man. You should see how he moved Tate around here when he was testifying. Come over here. Stop this. Stop. He's a control freak. Same with Parker. If he can't push you around, he doesn't want you. And we're losing good people. Good people. And at the end of the day, he's going to be gone. And Oliveria will be gone. But you'll still be living in this town. And I won't forget your names, any of you, because you're responsible for Kennedy. And I will not forget it. I am taking this personally, and I will make it personal with all of you. You can bet on it. And stay tuned to the show, Solico, because we'll be talking a lot about you and your court cases. Maybe you don't have enough time to be on the town council because you've got too much going on in court and family court. But we'll be reading those documents in court. Okay? Thank you.